Well, hi Eamon, thanks again for giving us the time for the video. First of all, I suppose Everton has had a good start to the season. Does this show the value of sticking with the manager?
Yeah, I mean it does. Everton have been very loyal to David Moyes. He's done a really good job there, an almost impossible job because in the history of the game, Everton's a big club, a big brand, but they haven't had the money and the resources to be competitive, and he keeps buying good players, selling when he has to. He's done an amazing job there, and it is a virtue to keep your manager if you have the right manager, and they have the right manager. They've been lucky to keep him. I think he deserves a big job, and maybe will get a big job. But he's done a brilliant job for him.
And next, Theo Walcott has apparently turned down a 100,000 a week deal at Arsenal. Is there any justification for a player to turn down such a large amount?
Well, wage inflation is a major issue in the Premier League. It's a major issue in football in general. Manchester City in particular have inflated the wage structure in England beyond belief. They're paying players, ordinary players, some of them up to 200,000 a year. So Walcott, I think, is not a top player, but he is an England international. He's probably in his own head a better player than he really is. He's playing for Arsenal, who are one of the top clubs. I think he'd be a very lucky lad if he was getting 100 grand a week and should take it. But I would say that he looks around the league, he goes away with the England team, talks to other players, realises what other people are getting, which is hugely inflated, and thinks, okay, inflation for one is inflation for everyone else. So he, in his mind, he'll think he'd be underpaid at 100 grand a week, which is incredible. If I was his dad, I'd tell him to take it, but his agent's probably telling him to hold out. He could get more, and he hasn't signed a new contract with Arsenal. So, in a way, if he were to hold out for another 12 months, he'd be in a very strong position. He could maybe walk away from the club, and that's happened to Arsenal on a number of occasions. So I'd say he's bluffing. I'd say Wenger will call his bluff. He's not guaranteed to start. He's not a first team starter always. So I think it's crazy, but the game is crazy these days in terms of wages and indeed transfer fees.
And finally, this week's tips for us.
We got a double up last week, and I'd be reasonably confident we can get a treble up this week. The first bet is Everton. Everton to beat Southampton. Southampton, they lost their last away match 6-1 to Arsenal. Everton are tough to beat, and I think Everton have a very good chance of beating Southampton at home. I think Manchester United will beat Spurs. Spurs have a terrible record at Old Trafford. I don't really fancy AVB, their coach. I don't think they'll have a go at Old Trafford. You have to say that Manchester United have a crippling injury list of defenders. Vidic now out for 8 weeks maybe. But they have got some sparkling forwards. Van Persie, Wayne Rooney came back during the week. Kagawa, Valencia. I think they'll score more goals than Spurs. I think they'll win that match. The other team I fancy for the treble would be Stoke to beat Swansea. Swansea lost at home to Everton last week 3-0. I think they're a poor side. I think the league position they're in is false because they got off to a good start. So I'd fancy the treble to be Everton to beat Southampton, Stoke to beat Swansea, and Manchester United to beat Spurs. I've also got 2 draws. I think the Sunderland-Wigan match will be a draw. Wigan are well coached. Martinez is a very good coach. I wasn't very impressed with Sunderland. The last home match was against Liverpool. They weren't very impressive. I think that could be a draw. And the other match that could be a draw is the Midlands derby between Aston Villa and West Brom. So 2 draws will pay 10-1 for the double. Sunderland-Wigan, Villa-West Brom.
Thank you for your time again, Eamon.
My pleasure.